Hello, we're on day 7 with Sacred Sensuality, so we're just at the halfway point. And as I was recording the transmission for tomorrow, it really got me reflecting about our relationship with our desires and also how we can create for more healthy space for our desires to exist without shutting them down. So the thing about the balance between psyche and ego consciousness and soul and ego consciousness is that sometimes psyche or soul just wants what it wants, and this shows up in our desires, and we may shut them down, we may ignore them, we may dull them down, we may just snuff it out altogether because of a variety of reasons. Like in some occasions it's because of conscience, in some occasions it's because it's not time. For other situations, it could be timing, it could be what it requires, it could be maybe a shame around our desires, and it could also be that we don't feel deserving of receiving our desires or fulfilling our desires. So as a result, we don't receive our desires, we don't make space for them, we don't consciously allow them to exist in the world. And just like any other emotion, desires are an energy. It's energetic and it's also charged. So when we snuff out our desires or when we suppress them, they don't disappear as much as our conscious mind can be strong-willed, and we can lie to ourselves that I'm just not going to think about it, and we can be fierce for sure with our thoughts, in the sense that when they emerge, when they come, definitely we can catch ourselves in the moment, but this doesn't make the energy of the desire dissipate. In fact, it finds different ways to manifest. It grows in the shadow, it grows, and when we don't consciously make space for them, what happens is that they then find little gaps within our psyche to sneak up and outwardly into our lives, and we can think of this as weeds. And also, when we don't consciously make space for them, then they show up in our shadows, they show up through our shadows, they may show up in ways that we don't necessarily feel proud of within ourselves. And when it's been held in for a very long time, that's the extent of which it emerges and it comes forth. And sometimes when they do, the energy of it does become very overwhelming, and it can feel very out of control, and we could definitely be overpowered by the immensity of how great this energy emerges with. So what I feel has been useful for me to practice is to connect with what is that feeling of fulfillment, or what is that feeling that comes with fulfilling our desires, whether it's euphoria, whether it's joy, whether it's a sense of peace, excitement, curiosity being satiated. When we allow ourselves to be with our desires and to connect with the emotion that comes with the fulfillment of the desires, and we allow ourselves to breathe with that emotion, or to be with that emotion, or find other ways to evoke this emotion within ourselves, it definitely plays a huge role in kind of like opening that drawer in which we kept the act or the desire itself. So that's one thing that I found valuable in my experience. And then the other thing, it's so simple, yet it's so often overlooked, which is to simply allow the desire to exist, allow it to be, to acknowledge it, to acknowledge its form, and to acknowledge its presence, because that's all we want to have our being, to be seen, to be witnessed just as we are. So not making the desire change form, which we sometimes do. Sometimes I find myself asking, why do I want this, or why do I want it this way? It's just what it is. And when we are wanting our desire to change its form just for our convenience or comfort, it's not really honoring the soul of the desire as it is. So that's something that we can practice already, to acknowledge desire as they show up, and to allow for them to just be, to allow for them to breathe with us, and to make space for them, to make room for them within our psyche. And sometimes simply by doing that, its energy also gets it gets diluted, it's less intense, just because there is more space being held for it. So that has been my journey, exploring and being with desire.